The State Department has issued a worldwide travel warning for U.S. citizens abroad, and protests have been flaring up around the world after Hamas leaders called for a day of rage in response to Donald Trump's announcement yesterday.
Today, we finally acknowledge the obvious, that Jerusalem is Israel's capital. This is nothing more or less than a recognition of reality. It is also the right thing to do.
Israelis are cheering the move, at least a lot of them are, but the Palestinian chief negotiator declared it was the biggest mistake of Trump's life and one that destroyed any possibility of a two-state solution. So, is the situation as dire as it sounds? I'm joined by a man who once served as political officer at the American Consulate General in Jerusalem. Nicholas Burns went on to become an ambassador to Greece and NATO and Undersecretary of State, so he knows a thing or two. He's now a professor at the Harvard Kennedy School of Government. Good to see you, Ambassador. Thanks for being here. Deeply unwise are the words you used about this. Why?
Because every prior American president has understood one thing. This city has two claimants, Israel and the Palestinians. If we, the mediator, choose one of them and support that side and not the other, it's fundamentally prejudicial to the final result. So what it does is it diminishes our influence in the Muslim world, 1.6 billion people, and, as you said, it puts our diplomats at risk. And President Trump made a major concession, got nothing in return.
Well, that's, Tom Friedman, I'm sure you saw, wrote a piece to say where he said if he writes a book about the first year of foreign policy of the president, it's going to be called The Art of the Giveaway.
Right.
And his major concern seemed to be not just the decision itself, and this is the part I didn't understand, but that the president got absolutely nothing for it. The art of the deal man got nothing. So why did he do it?
I think he did it because he feels he made a commitment on the campaign trail to move the American embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Actually, that's not going to happen for a couple of years. The bigger issue internationally is the United States unilaterally recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. He did it, I think, because he wants to be able to say to the crowds, I fulfilled my campaign pledge, but that's his personal interest, the national interest. Every other president has said the national interest is in the opposite direction.
I want to get to the every other president thing in a minute, but just going back to this whole divided city issue, and I think your expression was Palestinians have a claim to a part of the city.
Of course.
The president's words, I don't have them verbatim in front of me, about the actual borders, the sovereignty issues will be decided later. Did he not leave the door open potentially for Jerusalem, the west part of Jerusalem, to be the capital of Israel and the eastern part of Jerusalem to be the capital for the Palestinians, assuming there ever is this two-state solution?
He left the door open, to his credit. But if you think about, Jim, a final negotiation for an Israeli-Palestinian peace, there are two or three big cosmic issues.
And this is one of them?
This is one of them. We just made a unilateral concession to Israel and got nothing in return. Now, we're great friends with Israel. But we don't agree with the Israelis on the West Bank settlements. You might have traded one for the other. The president didn't do that.
You know, I want to talk about his predecessors just for a second. You know this much better than I. A guy by the name of Bill Clinton said much the same thing on the campaign trail. And his two successors, George W. Bush and Barack Obama, said this.
As soon as I take office, I will begin the process of moving the United States ambassador to the city of Israel as chosen as its capital.
Jerusalem will remain the capital of Israel, and it must remain undivided.
You know, while it was totally unnecessary, I thought, for the president yesterday to question the courage, was the word he used, of his predecessors who made pledges as campaigners, as did he, but then didn't honor them. But isn't there a point there? I mean, theoretically, you were elected based on what you promised the American people you'll do, and I assume you agree, most of us think that you will actually honor some of these pledges. Well, two Republicans and two Democrats right in a row said exactly the same thing. The only difference is Trump did it.
Trump did it because the others reconsidered, and they reconsidered because once they got behind the desk at the Oval Office, they realized how this would harm the United States. So, you know, I think the American voters understand that of 1,000 pledges you make in a campaign, you can't implement all of them, and you're supposed to exercise your judgment as president. That's why we elect good people to be president. I think President Trump has just completely erred here.
Well, as long as he honored that pledge to the tax break for the middle class, everything is okay.
I wish he had.
So is there any evidence? I mean, Jared Kushner has apparently been working with a Saudi crown prince. Is there any evidence that he's making any progress before yesterday? Was there any evidence he was getting anywhere?
There really isn't, and the problem
is not.
And the problem is because the Israeli government is very right-wing and not really interested in a peace deal with the Palestinians, and the Palestinians are divided, and at least with Hamas in Gaza, they're not interested in peace either. So this wasn't the propitious moment for the United States after 69 years to make the big concession.
How offended are you as someone who's done what you've done for a living and has, I assume, hundreds of friends who are diplomats, career diplomats, that a young kid, for lack of a better expression, with no experience is the person put in charge of arguably the single most difficult diplomatic issue maybe in the world? Does that offend you?
It offends.
Tell the truth. It does, doesn't it?
Of course it does, but it's not about me. When I think of James A. Baker, George H.W. Bush's Secretary of State, or Colin Powell, or Condoleezza Rice, these were people with tremendous experience. They knew how to deploy the power of the United States. President Trump ought to hire the best people in our society. I don't think his son-in-law has the background to do this job well.
Okay, so let's move from the de facto Secretary of State to the real Secretary of State, Tillerson. Here's my analysis with no diplomatic experience. He's either totally inept or he's incredibly competent and is deciding to essentially destroy the State Department, or he's the victim of Donald Trump's starving of the beast. It's one of those three. Which is it?
Combination of 2 and 3. There's an ideological agenda in the right wing of the Trump administration. Shrink the government, eviscerate the Environmental Protection Agency, Department of Interior, State Department. I mean, here's the State Department, which has 280 embassies and consulates, front line for the United States. They want to reduce the budget by 31%. They want to reduce the number of diplomats by 8%. We're already stretched thin. This is ideologically based, Jim.
You wrote a piece with a colleague dismantling the Foreign Service. Is it they don't believe in diplomacy? I mean, they don't believe in diplomacy, or they just believe smaller government is better government regardless of the consequences?
I think it's both. In this case, the president values very much the military. He never talks about diplomacy. He hasn't promoted any diplomats, and he's trying to downsize the department.
You know, one of the things we had 2 former CIA agents here the other night, and I was asking, what's the morale in the CIA when, you know, early on in Trump's presidency, he likens the CIA to the Nazis and then strikes at them again.
Yeah.
We can go department by department. What's the morale in the State Department with all these unfilled positions, this obviously disrespect for diplomacy first? I mean, what is the morale of your former colleagues?
Rock bottom.
And what's the consequence of that? What's the consequence of unfilled positions and low morale in real terms? I don't mean just psychological terms.
So I go back to the Carter administration. I was an intern at State. I've never seen the State Department morale so low. Some of our best younger people are leaving the State Department because they don't feel that they're being respected, listened to, that there's a career path for them. I deeply believe in government. Not always perfect, but we need a strong government. We're the strongest country in the world. And right now, we have a very weak State Department, and Tillerson himself is being sidelined, as you can see, by President Trump.
Can we just turn the corner for one more second and talk about Russia for the final minute? Not Bob Mueller, Russia, but this interesting development that the I would argue, corrupt International Olympic Committee is tougher on Russia than the President of the United States is what I found really interesting. I don't know if I'm reading too much into this. Rather than striking back after the IOC banned the Russian Olympic team from the games in South Korea, Putin meekly responded that he was not going to boycott the Olympics, that if neutral athletes from Russia wanted to go, it was fine.
Yeah.
Should I not read something into that? That's so uncharacteristic of the man to me. Is it to you, and does it mean anything?
Well, the Olympic Committee has the goods on Russia. Massive cheating at the Sochi Olympics in 2014. And I think Putin wants some of those Russian athletes to be able to compete without Russia on their uniform. But here's the irony. Donald Trump, the U.S. Senate voted 98-2 to implement sanctions on Russia for their hack of our election. Donald Trump hasn't implemented those sanctions. So here you have the International Olympic Committee with a decisive move against Russia, and our president can't even bring himself to criticize Russia for trying to thwart our elections.
Nick Burns, thanks so much.
Thanks, Jim.
Really appreciate your time and your thoughts.